All right. Good evening, everyone. Hugs and stitches to you. Look, this is Getting Creative with Floriani, Total Control Professional, and there's an awful lot that I want to show you tonight. I'm going to kind of try to go slow. I want to initially begin by showing you everything that kind of have always been in Total Control Professional for you since the inception of the program. But then I'm going to continue on with showing you some really neat new stuff that I'm not sure you're all aware that it's in there, and I'm going to show you how to actually create and control it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I guess the first thing that I want to talk about are the different stitch types and the applications of special effects that we can do within each stitch type. And I'm going to start just very simply with a run stitch. We apply run stitch to our screen. One of our moderators, someone has their, if you can hang up, please, or mute yourself. I'm getting feedback. Okay, I think we're good now. So we just do a very simple run stitch. Now, once you select the run stitch, you always have an ability, certainly with a run stitch, to use a standard, being a single run stitch, a two-ply, a bean stitch, but you also have the ability to apply the motifs. Just select motif. You select from any of these motifs that you see here in the down screen, apply your motif. Just choose it, click apply, and it applies to that run stitch line. I think this is really a neat thing for doing borders and such, and I'll show you another application of utilizing the motifs with a series of motif shapes that we have in there. But with a run stitch, you can always apply the motifs. You can also, to a run stitch, always apply symbols. Symbols can be used for a variety of features, but you get an enormous amount of symbols that come in the software. So you know what, I can say, look, let's apply the anchors. I do have size control. Go up to size, change the size, and I can apply anchors to that run stitch. So run stitch, just not a run stitch. You can apply motifs. You can apply symbols to the run stitch. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to close these as I'm, well, I'll just keep going on. We'll just start with a new one. And let's talk next. Oops, excuse me. I'm clicking the wrong button. Let's talk about the fill stitch, or the complex fill. We'll go ahead and make a very simple complex fill. Certainly in fill stitch, you always have the ability to create just a standard fill. Let me move. I have to move something out of the way here. But realize too, oops, excuse me, with a fill stitch, you also have a series just under standard of a brick effect, a corn effect. You can create your own fill effects. I'll show you how to do that a little later. You have different patterns. The random is a very, very neat technique. I'll go ahead and apply it right now. Random is a very unique or a very neat technique when you're trying to create a hair effect in wildlife or such. It puts a very scattered stitch length within the fill stitch, and then can be utilized for great effects for hair, for grass, for different backgrounds and such. It really is quite amazing. I love that random stitch. You have a satin effect. You have a smooth. Tatami is the Japanese vernacular for fill. Tatami is the normal default that you're going to come up with. And you also have a zigzag pattern. So just under your standard effects in fills, you do have a wider range of effects. Look, what I truly suggest that you all do, and what I did, is I created a series of 3-inch boxes. You can make them 2 or 3-inch boxes. Apply the different effects just under standard to those boxes, and you'll be amazed how really it will amplify the creativity that you have when you're doing different effects. Water and grass and leaves and trees and hair and such. All that's found under standard. Now, once you select that fill also, you also have the ability to create embossing patterns. If you don't know what embossing patterns are, we have created a very unique group of embossing designs. Simply select any embossing design, click apply, and what you're going to do is simply apply that shape to that embossing or to that fill stitch. I love the embossing patterns. We're going to come back to the embossing patterns in just a little bit, because you can do some really neat new stuff with that too. Also within your fill stitch, you can apply the motifs. So the same thing, just like applying it to a run stitch. You can select any motif, click apply, and you can apply a motif to any fill stitch that you want to do. You can change angles on them. You can change sizes. I do also like that. I'll utilize those when I'm doing a lot of like home decor things, and I want to create like lettering where I'll put fill stitches in my lettering, and I want to create some really nice open effects that I'm going to do on towels. It's almost an embossing pattern in itself. It gives a really great effect, allowing the towel to puff up through the motif shapes and such. Also, it's great with our heat and shrink product, using the motif shapes with your fill stitch. And you do a simple fill stitch, apply the motif, use the heat and shrink, hit it with steam, shrink it down. It actually fits within the shape of the motif. I think that is very, very cool. A couple of things that we added since the inception of the software have been a series of shapes, and you now have for special effects circles, diamonds, squares. If you want to apply, let's say, a circle or even a square to that effect, just pick your shape, click apply. It applies that to it. I always think it looks a little better, certainly in a 3D view. And you do get a really nice series of shapes. We're going to come back to these shapes also in just a little bit. We also developed the contour stitch. The contour stitch is a stitch that scrolls out from the center. And you do have a nice level of control with your contour stitching within your density right here. If you want to change the effect to your contour stitch, just come in, select your density, change your density, click apply, and you'll change the effect to the contour stitch. And then finally, with the fill stitch, we have developed, and certainly you do have the stippling effect. You apply your stippling. This is a very open stippling effect. Once again, its control is in the density. This is set, the preset is to a 3, which is a very open density. You can set it down to a 1, and you get a much, much tighter stipple. You can even go a little tighter than that. I really like the stippling. And again, folks, these are things that are in there, but I think it's important just to go over. I'm not sure you're all utilizing them or all knowing that they're in there. I'll tell you another thing, because there are things I want to point out where I utilize these. I'll utilize stippling many times as an effect for bushes, for the tops of trees and such. It really is a wonderful effect. I mean, you can come in and create the top of a tree, just creating some nice little curved fills. And then just simply applying the stipple stitch to it, and really create some really neat effects. Again, I'm going to change my density down and create some really neat effects to the top of trees and such, and bushes and that. I think it's just awesome. I use the stippling an awful lot when I'm doing a lot of landscape designs and things like that. Those are the things certainly that you can apply to your fill stitching. Look, I want to go ahead and talk about appliques now. And I'm going to go ahead and just come in here and just do a very simple applique shape. I'll just do a square. Realize with an applique, unlike a fill, you always got to finish the effect. Now, you see what I just did there? That was the first thing that I wanted to point out. Whenever you start an applique within the software, I started in the corner. That's not what I recommend that you do. So I'm going to go ahead, right-click, and delete that. And I did do that on purpose, because when I start an applique, or when I do an applique, I always start the applique in a straight segment of the applique, or on a very simple curve. I don't like the way that logically it creates or that it finishes off when you start and end at a corner of the applique, and I don't know what I just did there. That's okay. We don't mind if it makes a little error. We're just going to come in, pick it one more time. Now, when you do an applique, and you see the corners are much, much nicer when you're doing your appliques. When you select the applique, certainly the default value of the applique is within a satin stitch. You are in full control of the width, the stitch length, the applique density, the corner type. You can place your placement line, your tack down line, pretty standard. But satin is the default value of your applique. But realize, with all appliques, You also have the ability to apply an E-stitch. E-stitch is just, it's an E, or what we call a blanket stitch. It's an open stitch effect. It actually is very, very wonderful. Can also be utilized as an internal border to the applique, utilizing like an outer satin stitch and an inner E-stitch. Can look very, very tricky, very neat sometimes. But realize too, with all your appliques, you can also apply the motifs as a border, so you get from your entire selection of motifs. Want to apply a motif, come in there and just change the size a little bit. You can apply your motifs to the borders, and you also have full access to your symbols, all right? Now, not that you would want to border that with anchors. In fact, you know what? I'll show you one that I like to use an awful lot. I'll start a new screen, and I'm just going to change the background color on the screen. What we have also within the software is a series of applique shapes. These are, again, pre-done applique shapes for you. We have a very nice selection. It allows you to be creative because they're already set in there and they work like a dream. Want to make that banana an applique? Click it. It's an applique. Once again, satin stitch, select it. You always have the ability to do your E-stitch. Have the ability to do not only your E-stitch, certainly apply your motifs to it. Excuse me, let's go ahead and apply a motif to it. And then this is one that I like, and I use it in a lot of the classes. Where would you apply symbols? Look, you can get pretty creative, and you can say, look, I want to apply bananas to that banana. And you can border that applique with banana. Again, in the applique stitch, satin stitch, E-stitch, motif stitching, and your symbol stitching you also get within there. I think that's a very creative side to the software. I want to talk about the text designs. I know a lot of you use the text designs. Some of you don't. I'll show you where I utilize the text designs. You do have a series. You have your text tool, your monogram tool. Next to that icon, you have your text designs. There are over 800 text designs within the software itself. Now, let me explain something. If you ever go into your text designs and you just see like these ABC, these angel designs up here, and you don't see all the designs that you have in here, all right, put in your master disk and download your support files. Okay, these designs do not always auto-load the first time you load your software. They are in your support files. So make sure that you load your support files. I'll also tell you kind of a little funny story. I sold the software at one of the events that I did, and a young lady came in the next day, and she was in tears. I showed her how to use the text designs. One of the things that I do with text designs, my daughter's name is Scarlett, so a lot of times I'll grab the S in Scarlett. I'll use it for the first letter of her name. Then I'll grab the text tool, come in here, and just type the rest of her name. We do have this letter style in here. I'm not going to take the time, to look for it. I think it's Bookman, but I'll just come in and apply, what the heck, nah, it doesn't really matter. But I'll apply the rest of her name to it. And that's one of the neat things that you can do with the text designs. But what I was kind of alluding to was a young lady came to class the very next day after she bought the software. She went home and loaded it. And she came home and she cried, and she was almost in tears. And she said to me, my daughter's name is Valerie. You forgot the V. And as you see, the V is not in there. And I said, honey, don't worry. Scroll down to the bottom. It was not done initially. We did do the V. So if you do decide to use the angel design and you need a V, it is down there. You're just going to find it at the bottom of the text design. So I just thought that was kind of silly. I thought I'd bring that up. Now, another thing that you can do with the text designs, because it's not just for the beginning of a name per se, also with the text designs, you get designs. Scarlett, I tell her she's a little monkey, so I can bring up that little monkey. I can size it if I want to size it down a little bit. I can take that monkey and I can then hang it from the name, from the L in her name, and you can create some really neat designs like that and get very, very creative within your text and utilizing the text designs. Now, talk about text. Look, you do have a lot of creativity just within the text designs themselves or with the text tools. So I'll come in here and I'll just apply the word welcome. Let's go ahead and apply it. Let's fit the screen with it. Certainly you know that your spacing is done with the yellow diamonds. The orange square allows you to take individual letters off the screen so you can place letters within an entire design. You can take any design and you can actually kind of form fit the letters around a design. Once you have an individual letter off of the line, okay, off of the initial line, you also have wonderful sizing that you can do, all right? Let's just take that back to the beginning where we were, and we'll go ahead and select that again. You also have some wonderful shape features. Coming over to the green square over here on the left, I can stretch, all right? I can do that top or bottom, or by holding down the control key, I can wiggle it like that and get some really nice angles. You have the same control at the end, so you can stretch on one side. You can also stretch top to bottom. You also have that same control in the center. You can stretch in the center. You can hold the control. You can stretch on the top. Certainly you can stretch on that. Now I'm not going to cover with text, but certainly in text you also know, and if you don't, you can italicize just simply by clicking italicize. You can also stair-step your lettering. And certainly you also have the ability in text to do multiple line of text with a center, left, right alignment. You can also do your circle and reverse arch if you want to do arch lettering on top or on the bottom. But there's more than that with it also. Once you do an initial select on the lettering, and I believe you come into shape at that time, excuse me, let me do the initial select and get to the next level. You also have, simply by a right click, a series of enveloping shapes, okay? And these are special effects. You have a rectangle, a pennant right, pennant left, curve down, curve up, bridge concave top, concave bottom, double concave bridge. Click it, it'll form to that shape. And really, the last thing that I want to talk to you about text is a really neat feature that some of you don't know about is the stretch feature. Many times when you create small lettering, all right, the small A's, E's, R's, and I won't really bring up anything to do that with now, but E's, R's, A's, small O's, the open areas, they tend to close on them. So what we built is this tool right here, and it is this little black diamond to the far right. It is a stretch feature. Getting on top of it, left-clicking and holding, and pulling to the right stretches the lettering out. This can be very, very helpful in opening up the small areas of minute lettering, okay? And certainly one of the neatest special effects that we've created in lettering that was an update for you all is that we are the first software in the world, in my opinion, or as far as I know, to offer a running stitch text, okay? Folks, you can go down to as small as in some cases 3 millimeters in height. Certainly when you're using all uppercase, you can go down to about 3 millimeters in height with perfect clarity. Let's just view that. You can barely see that, but that's minute lettering, okay? You can actually do minute text. Let me go ahead and just create a brand new one. I didn't really need to do it with the envelope and shape. Pick your Arial center run, tell it 4 millimeters again, click apply. The actual size of that, that's minute lettering. Minute lettering at your fingertips, unheard of in software prior to really this being developed. I'm very, very proud of the Arial center run. It does perform the function in a beam stitch, so it actually moves through the lettering extremely well. And the lettering, even at 3 to 4 millimeters in height, that is minute lettering. At 3 to 4 millimeters in height, the lettering has total clarity. It's absolutely just amazing, all right? Let's talk about some of the monogram features that you have in there. Certainly you have your monogram tool. Takes any of your over 140 fonts in the software, turns it into a 3-letter monogram simply by clicking apply. You can apply any font to the 3-letter monogram using your monogram tool. Some of you might not know, but we also have provided for you as you scroll down your font list all of these fancy style fonts for your monogramming. I believe there is 45 of those in the software now. There are 45 of them. select any one of them that you'd like to utilize, simply click apply, and you can apply that to it. Okay, I really like those monogram fonts. And then really one of the highlights too with your monogramming, down at the bottom of your text list are the top 13 monogram styles in the industry, already preset for you. Click apply, up it comes. Now, anytime you're using a monogram font and it's signified by the green letter M, if you look over here, you have just an A here showing just the normal fonts within the software. Once you see that green letter M, those are your 13 top monogram styles. Once you're in those monogram styles, they all come with a series of decor. Now, the neat thing about the decor is that they will auto-size to the size that you choose to make your monogram. So whatever size you make your monogram, by utilizing the decor, it will auto-size and it will place itself in perfect position around the monogram. I think it's very important at this point to also talk about that each monogram style comes with its own series of decor. So as you apply a different monogram style to it, you get a whole other series of decor to border that with. The decor is different for every monogram style that's in the software. And more than that, folks, besides those traditional or that decor that comes around there, you also get your monogram designs. This is a whole nother series of monogram borders. Now, these do not auto-fit to the lettering. So when you pick a specific, I can pick like the rope, it'll come up on the screen to size it. You'll come in and just size it, and then you'll have to move it into position, okay? Now, moving into position is not difficult because you can always use your guidelines to bring your center lines to your lettering. Just come up to the margin areas. You can drag, pull it right to the center. And then when you're moving, actually I centered that one perfectly in there. You'll see that I'm perfectly centered. I'm now centering to these lines because these are indicative of the center point. So it really makes it pretty easy to size and certainly pretty darn easy to place. So you do get a wonderful series of additional monogram borders. Again, the only things you can't really do with this is that they don't auto-size. You're going to have to size them. I really like that feature in the monogram. I think it's always just neat to have additional designs. You get your motif shapes. You can get real creative with motif shapes, especially with your quilting and its quilting borders and that. And you get a whole series of really wonderful motif shapes. Grab any motif shape, and you can certainly apply any of the motif designs to them. Simply choose one and apply it. But also with the motif shapes, you can certainly make it a single, a double, or a triple run, your motifs, but you can also apply the symbols. Look, if I wanted to border that motif shape with anchors, I can say anchors away, and I can put anchors around those motif shapes also. So I think those are pretty neat. Not everyone's aware of all the motif shapes in there. And then certainly just in a review, you also have all of your applique shapes, and you do get a wonderful series of pre-done applique shapes. We already talked about that a little bit already. A couple of other things that I'd like to show you. You do also get access to the symbols. So the same symbols that we can apply to running stitch, we can apply to applique borders and such. We can also utilize as stock designs. Simply, and this is your icon here, down click on it, it'll say select, or click the down arrow. Here's your symbols, and now you're actually looking at them in there. Grab any symbol, and let's say we wanted to create a family of butterflies. You can left click now and pull and drag, and let's say that's Mama Butterfly, and then here are her kids. So you can create some really neat stock designs utilizing the symbols. Now, one of the things you notice when you bring the symbols in like this is you're certainly going to run here, if we look in the sequence view, beige, black, beige, black, beige, black, beige, black. You know what? I don't want that many color changes, so just a neat little addition to that. You can simply click Edit and Resequence by Color. Resequence it by color, and it brings it just down to the beige black. Okay? A couple of the neat things that you can do within the software now also that I guess would be considered special effects and certainly can be very helpful. And I'll show you a couple of things that we do when you're working with patches. Let me go ahead and open up a design. Let me come in here and open up my H drive. I think I have a design in here we can utilize. Let's come in here. I could even take my Fun Club logo, bring it up. Bring up any design. When you want to make patches, do an initial select and a Control A. And what you're going to look for is this icon right here. It is your repeat icon. This is also great when you're doing things like your bookmarks, your Christmas ornaments and such, where you want to run like on Wet and Gone per se, an enormous amount of designs in one major hooping. In this case, for patches. Now, you do have the number of number of designs across, the number down, the horizontal distance, the vertical distance. Simply by changing these numbers, you'll give some horizontal distance and some vertical distance. You'll give more so that you have space in between the patches. Let's come up and just change that a little bit more. You can also say you want to auto resequence by color, because again, once I generate this, it's going to run through every one of these one at a time. But I can say auto resequence by color, apply it, click OK. Very helpful for making patches or when you want to do multiple designs in one big hoop. Okay. Look, I'd like to talk about some of the real creativity that we've added. You know, one other thing really that I want to touch on, and I didn't really cover it when we did the fill stitch, and I'll go ahead and do a fill. The other special effect that's always been in the fill stitch, and we'll just do an initial select, and it's actually located just under General. Okay. If you come under General, you have what we call gradient fills. These can be used for really nice special effects. You can do a linear increasing fill stitch. Linear increasing actually takes the fill from very dense to very light. We also have in the fill stitch under General, you have linear decreasing. It just going from light into dense back into light. Excuse me, that was convex. Linear decreasing goes from very light to very dense. I'm sorry. And then you saw it already. We do also have convex and concave. Okay. Now, how can you utilize these for some really neat effects? Look, create a fill stitch. Apply, in this case, the concave. At this point, I'm going to right-click. I'm going to copy. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to paste. I've just put a second fill on top. I'm going to select that second fill, apply another color to it. I'm going to come back under General. Having selected that still, come under General. First one was concave. I thought it was convex. We'll see. We'll apply it. Nope, I used the same one. Excuse me. And you can create some really, really neat effects in this manner. Now, though, let's take that a step beyond that, because that's normally how blending was done in the software. But in the last update that we just came out with, we created this, and I think this is absolutely magnificent, folks. I'm going to, again, just come in here and create an initial fill stitch, all right? Want to do magnificent blends within the fill stitches now? And I can tell already with the way that I'm going, Kathy, we're going to keep the questions to the end because now I'm getting excited. Now I want to show them some of the new stuff that we put into the software. Select your fill stitch. Up here in your properties box, you now have a brand new blend icon. Now, you know what? I'm not sure if we've covered this already in an FTC-P update. When you received your last update, if you didn't read it fully or notice, you'll now see that here in the properties box, we now have a brand new icon view. Under Tools and General Options, and under View, I believe it's located, you now have a Show Properties tabs as icons. Normally up here it says Fill, it says Pull, Push, it says General. By creating the new icons, and just go under General and go under View, click on your Show Properties tabs as icons and click OK. It changes them up here to icon. Totally minimizes the scrolling. I think that is a really, really neat thing. Anyway, up here in your new icons, or in the icons in the properties box, you have a brand new blend icon. Click on that blend icon. You can now tell it that you want a second color layer. You can apply the density to that second color layer, the length to that color layer. You can also, again, you have the control of nonlinear, increasing, decreasing, concave, convex. You can also select colors. The colors are based on the color palette. So the first color is a blue, okay? If I do it auto, it's actually going to do the second color layer in a red. The third color layer is going to be in a green, all right? But if I wanted the second color layer to be, let's say, the orange, I can actually come in here and say, I want the second color layer to be color number 4, okay? So you don't always have to auto-align down here on your color bar the colors that you want to be in there. You can actually select them in the control box up here in the properties box. You can also then say, I want a third color layer, okay? And once again, we'll tell it now we want it to be color number 2, the red. Click apply. And you know what, folks? You're blending like a master digitizer at this point in time. Absolutely automatic. Once again, it's a brand new blend icon that's up here. I think that's absolutely amazing to have in there. You can create 2-color blends, 3-color blends, gradient fills, convex, concave, linear increasing, linear decreasing, absolute control over the stitch length and density. They're preset. Run the first one like that, you're going to be amazed. You're blending like a master. These are magnificent for creating wonderful water effects and sky effects. Really, try the blending techniques. It really is really amazing. Okay, some of the neat things that we've done, okay, and added into the software. Certainly we've covered motifs. We've covered in fill stitching the shapes, the embossing designs and such. But you know what we've just done now, and I'm going to show you a couple examples. Let's say I want to create my own shape designs, all right? I'll just create a new box. Now I'm going to go ahead and just bring a grid up so that I can be a little more clear here. Zoom into it so I can get a little bit more precise. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use the artwork tool. And I'm going to grab the artwork tool and just grab the pen. And what I'm going to make is just a triangle shape now. You don't necessarily want to make these extremely large. I'm going to make a triangle shape. And again, I'm doing this as artwork. So once it's generated, and over here in the sequence view, the software is seeing it as artwork, all right? But now what I can do is go under File and Save As, and then the choices in Save As type that you have here now, you can now see that you can save it as a shape design. So tell it Shape. Now I think I've done a triangle already, so I'm going to call this one Triangle 2, okay? And I'm going to save it in my shape files. Well, now when I come in and create a fill stitch, select it, go into your shapes, and you'll see right in the list, there's my Triangle 2, and you can apply it. So you now have your abilities to create your own shapes within the software. And certainly one of the neat things about those shapes is doing an initial select and then going into your shape function. You can move the center point. So if you want the triangle to emanate from a different point, just move the center point, right-click. You can move the center point on any shape that you want to anywhere within the fill. This can be really neat. With some of the circles, you can make it look like it's just going back almost into infinity and stuff. So you now have the ability to create your own shapes, okay? Look, another neat thing that you can do, motifs, all right? Let's go ahead and create. And once again, I'm going to come in here and just utilize my grid and do a zoom in. This is something that DJ and I really pushed for. Look, we thought the ability to have the shapes in there were great, to have the motifs in there were great, to have the embossing, to have the symbols, to have the all of the designs that we have in there. We think it's just amazing, but you know what we've worked really hard for? Giving you the ability to create your own. So not only do you have the ability to create shapes, once again using your artwork tool, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to zoom out on this just a little bit. And I'm just going to do a 5-pointed star. The one thing what you've got to do and make sure that you do when you want to create a motif, I started over here on the left. You want to make sure that you end on the far right. So it's the end point, because this is how you connect your motifs. Right click, it's done. Once again, File, Save As. You can now save as a motif design. Let's just go ahead and name that Star 2. I think I might have one in there already. And you save it as an MTP. That's your motif pattern. Save. Once again, when you come in and you want to create even again a fill stitch, create your fill stitch or a simple run stitch line, anything you can apply the motifs to. Select it, come in, choose your motifs. You'll now see that down here on the bottom of the list, I've got my Star 2. Did it apply correct? Nope, didn't apply correct. I'm going to undo that one. Why did my star correct? Just 1 second. Sometimes you got to try a couple of times, folks. Actually, you don't do that. Let me make very, very clear. The challenge that I had with that, and I apologize, when you want to create a motif shape, you do not do so within the artwork function. I apologize. Motif is actually a stitched file. So you come in, and once again, let me just zoom in, grab your running stitch. Once again, we'll come in, and we'll just create our 5-pointed star. I do very much apologize for that. Again, the important aspect is ending over here on the right. That's created, File, Save As. Come in and tell at this point again your motif. We'll just name this one Star. Save it. Create a new one. Create my fill stitch. Let me go ahead and get rid of the grid. Select it. Go into your motif. You'll now see down at the bottom of the list, and there it is. There's the proper star that we wanted, and apply. So you can now create your own motifs. I think that's actually quite amazing. Look, same thing with embossing. And look, a really neat thing that you can do with the embossing is utilize your true type text. Now, again, shapes, artwork, motifs, stitch file, embossing, artwork. And what I'm going to do is import a true type text, all right? And I'm going to come in and just type my name, Floriani. Now, I'm going to tell it that I'm going to make it Arial black, and I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to make it pretty sizable. Click OK. Bring it up. I have it now as a piece of artwork. Once again, you see it as artwork. File, Save As, and I've already pre-saved this one. Just come in here and you're going to save it as your embossing pattern. So I saved it as Floriani embossing. Once I have that, one of the neat things that you can do is now come in and create again a fill stitch. Select your fill, come in, pick embossing. You'll see it right at the bottom of the list. We have so many embossing designs in there. I love it. Floriani, click apply. Now, one of the things, if you're going to utilize a name in the embossing that's very important that you do, is to go into shape and to change the angle on it. You don't want a 0 degrees angle or a 90 degrees angle. You want a 45 degree angle. You want an angled fill stitch. We'll go ahead and apply it, and then we'll make it look 3D. And what you're going to see in the embossing design is now the name Floriani over and over and over again in that fill stitch. I think it's amazing. Look, as a special effect, and this was something that I've always wanted in software, because I could utilize this when I was doing corporate names, major country clubs in this, even for my children's designs. And again, for Scarlet, I did a big background fill fill stitch for her and put her name. It replicates it over and over and over again. And you'll actually see, it actually drops like a little satin stitch. So it comes in and does a fill, and then it almost lays an internal satin in there so that you can actually see the name again, Floriani, over and over again. So you have your ability to create your own embossing patterns within the software now. I think that's absolutely just amazing. A couple of the other things that we've added, I guess what I'm telling you is we've now given you total access as to what you can save your designs on. You can create your own fill stitching, putting in your own partition line sequence, create your own embossing patterns, your own motif designs. Look, you can even create your own symbols. I'll bring one up and get myself all pumped up now. Look, we're going to go in here, and I'm just going to grab out of, I'm not going for file type, I'm looking under, I'm going to bring up my little jumping tiger design. I love this design. Now, I can save this design right at this point. I can hit File and Save As. And then under File Type, you look under Library Files, okay? You could save this design as a text design, and it will go right into the list of, into the images of text designs. So you can now integrate any designs into your text designs, all right? But you can also utilize them as symbols. So you can come in, double-click on your symbols. We'll just call it Jumping Tiger or J Tiger. Now, I want to do something first. When I'm going to save as a symbol for like an applique border, especially because this is a rather sizable design on a one-to-one basis, this design is that size. It's too big. So what I want to do is I want to minimize the size. The best way to minimize the size when I want to save for a symbol is I'm going to select the first three colors, and I'm going to delete those, okay? Then I'm going to size this design down, okay? Do a select on it. Let's see what size I have it as. I have that as about a 3-inch design. I want to take it down even a little more. So let's come in here and tell it we want it to be about a 2-inch design. Make it 50 millimeters, okay? And then we just hit File, Save As. Come in again and save it as a library file, okay? Goes into the library. Save it as your symbols. Let's just call it Jumping Tiger, J Tiger. Save it. You now have the ability now when you come into your symbols and select it, and it should have gone in, I believe it goes in alphabetically. So where'd you go? Hello, Jumping Tiger. I apologize, folks. I did something wrong when I did that. I don't see it right now. Let's do that one more time. Let's go ahead and open up that design. Let me see if it went in there. I don't really think I have to do that. I'm going to close this out, and I'm just going to come under the symbols one more time, and I'm going to look. There it is. I knew that tiger was in there. I just didn't close it out. And once again, I have full control of the sizing that I can do with this, so I can create all kinds of jumping tigers. I certainly can use that tiger if I come into my applique designs. And also use it for an applique border. Select it, come in, select your symbols. And there's the jumping tiger. Change the sizing on it. I can apply that little jumping tiger to my applique borders. You're just limitless. I mean, do you realize the kind of control, the level of creativity that this now opens you up to and takes you to is absolutely amazing. You now have the ability, and I tried to close them all, I'm sorry. You now have the ability to create and save your own shapes, your own motifs, your own embossing designs, creating your own library designs of symbols and text designs. You have your brand new blending icon. You also get a brand new feature, if you haven't been made aware of it, is the new Apple-Stitch. Apple-Stitch is one of the newest products from R&K Distributing. It's a magnificent applique material that you literally lay down the material, do your applique. When the applique is done, you literally just tear the material off. It's appliques made easy. We have some new videos and such coming out on it. If you haven't seen the Apple-Stitch material yet, it's going to be in the stores very, very soon. We've given you a brand new Apple-Stitch icon. Appliques made easy. Appliques are easier than ever. Create any shape, and now you don't even have to finish them off, and boom, it's an Apple-Stitch design. But a really neat thing you can do with the Apple-Stitch design is the same kind of thing. You can come in and actually import artwork. So I can import true type text, and I'll just put in a cap letter L. Once again, I'm going to tell it Arial. I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to make it pretty sizable. Click OK. Click OK again. I'm going to size it up. Pretty darn large. Oops. Let's view it on the screen. How big did I make that? I actually want that bigger than that still. I made it about a 4-inch design, fit the window. Again, it's artwork. But watch this. Once it's artwork, doing an initial select, right-click, you don't even have to digitize it. Convert to Apple-Stitch, and boom. The Apple-Stitch design is absolutely done for you automatically within the software, utilizing a piece of artwork that you generated with the true type text. I think that's amazing. Look, there's even some more that I can cover just in general, showing you how to blend satin stitches and things like that. But we talked a lot, and I've gone almost an hour, oh my God, already. Kathy, at this point in time, and I hope everyone's enjoyed this so far, the software's ability and to be creative in the software, I truly don't think there's anything like it in any other software out there. We've got about 5 minutes left or so, Kat. I'd like to open it up to some questions if I can make things clearer for anyone.
Yes, Walt. I had a question on you're saving things as different formats. Now, if you're doing a motif fill, you use a run stitch. If you're doing an embossed fill, you use an artworks tool.
Yes, if you're using, and let me make this very clear again, if you're doing a shape, and again, shape within the fill stitch. So if I'm going to create a shape in my fill, if you're creating a shape or you're creating embossing, you're going to use the artwork, you're going to use artwork. So true type text or using the artwork tool, and again, it's to create these specific effects in the shapes, okay, or in the fill stitch. That's done with an artwork tool. That is not a stitch file. So shapes and embossing are artwork, okay? Motifs, symbols, and text designs are stitch files. So I can say, I can have an existing stock design, like my jumping tiger, bring it in, save it as a text design. Has to be a stitch file. It's not artwork. If I want to use it as a symbol to border my appliques or to create stock designs out of, like I did with the butterfly design, again, stitch file. Also, a motif is a stitch file. And I'm sorry I erred on that. It's just a lot sometimes to retain initially. Shapes and embossing, specifically artwork, motifs, symbols, text designs are stitch files.
Wonderful. Walter, another question. Can you show the RedWork tool?
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't even thinking about the RedWork tool. My gosh, talk about another special effect that's wonderful. I just bring up, it doesn't really matter what I bring up. I'm just going to go ahead and bring up, let me size this basketball design and view it. Okay, the RedWork tool. Certainly, RedWork is done with a run stitch, so you select your run stitch. Pick your magic wand. You'll see that the magic wand is blue. Holding the shift key down, you'll see that the magic wand gets red. RedWork certainly is a run stitch that we do traditionally in a bean stitch. If you were to apply a run stitch to this black what you're going to get is two run stitches, one on both sides of the black stitching. Simply by selecting run stitch, the magic wand, holding down the shift key, coming on to any area of the black, and simply left-clicking, right-clicking, you have red work. Okay, I'll get rid of the artwork. Now, one of the neat things that you can do with the red work tool, and again, you select it, red work traditionally is done with a bean stitch. A bean is a 3-time run, so it's a heavy run stitch. But one of the neat things that you can also apply to the red work is you do have, again, the ability to apply any motif to your red work. You can apply a specific motif to the red work. And once again, you also have the ability to utilize any one of the symbols in the software. So it totally amplifies the red work function. Now, I'd like to show you something else that you can do with the red work, if I may. Red work, one of the neat things that I'll utilize it for, and I'm going to actually bring up that same design, okay? Let me just size it up again, okay, is the image that I have here. Very simple to digitize utilizing the magic wand. Certainly all I do is come in here and grab my fill stitch. The magic wand is grabbed, grab my color orange, left click, right click. The design is digitized. But the issue that I have with a design like this is that what I have now in the color black, okay, is I have very narrow areas and then fairly wide areas of the black. So certainly I want that to be a satin stitch. If you were to grab your ruler and measure it, it's going to tell you it should be a satin stitch. Well, if I grab the satin stitch and the magic wand is already selected, let me just change that purple over to black. Right-click on the black, and now left-click in the area. Then right-click. I mean, I'm digitized, certainly. But you know what I have now? I have an enormous amount of editing. Because of those thick and thin areas in there, I've got to come in and I've got to select the black, go into shape, got to right-click and say I want to edit the outlines, and now I got a bunch of outlines to move to make all that satin stitching the same width. So what I'm actually dealing with is a bad graphic, all right? I mean, quite simply, that's what it is. But you know what you can do now? And it's a really neat feature, and it was something that I realized with the red work tool. Let's just go ahead and view this to fit the screen again, okay? I'm going to grab my run stitch. Once again, the magic wand is selected. I've already got the black selected. I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to left click. Right click, it's done. What I have now is a single line run stitch. Now watch this, I'm going to zoom in. One of the neat things about this now is that I can now select that red work and I can right click on it and I can say convert to a steel stitch. A steel is a balance with satin stitch. And you see what I just did? I just took a bad graphic with narrow and thick areas of that artwork, and simply by using the red work tool, which puts a perfect run stitch through the center of it, and then selecting it and converting it to stitches. Because realize that's another wonderful effect. You can convert artwork, you can convert stitch types into other stitch types. So I turned that red work and said convert it to a steel stitch. Steel stitch being an absolute value. If I wanted to make it a little wider, I can actually come in by selecting that fill, and I can say, you know what, I want it 3.5 millimeters wide, apply it, add a little more width to it, and boom, it's done. So I've taken bad artwork and simply by utilizing that red work tool, probably saved myself an hour to an hour and a half of editing that would have had to been done in a design like that. I think that's a really neat feature.
Thank you, Walt. And the other question I have is you had mentioned using embossed fills in lettering to create home deck looks. What were you talking about?
You know what, just a lot of times, and it was actually when I was talking about the home deck look, I think I was talking about motifs. Certainly you can utilize the embossing patterns to create specific effect in fill stitches. But what I like to do with home decor and such, and especially when I say home decor, I'm talking about when I'm doing towels and things like that. I'll try to show you here something that I'll do pretty quickly. let's come in and do like a monogram design, okay? And then let's, on that monogram design, add a decor that borders that and apply it, okay? And we'll apply that. That's actually not the decor that I want. Let me pick a different decor. I wanted something a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to zoom into this a little bit. Let me go ahead and just view it on the screen. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a fill stitch. I'm going to apply another color, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to integrate, because this is another really neat thing with the software too, Kath, and for all of you listening out there, is I love the fact that I can take a stock design, I can take an existing monogram design, and I can integrate digitizing into it now, okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a very simple fill stitch to this design, okay? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select it right here and I'm going to put it in first position, so it's now running first. At this point in time, I'm going to select it. I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, you know what, let's apply a motif in there, and then I'll select a motif that I think is applicable to that. Now, you know what, when I run that on a towel, and if it doesn't size quite correct, all you've got to really do is select it. Just change the sizing on it normally when you're in your motif. Change the stitch length a little bit to a 2 and apply it. You'll get it to fit better. When I run that on a towel now with a 3D type effect, that's going to create, I've got to move it, I'm sorry, back into the first position. Okay? That's going to create almost an embossing pattern. Embossing meaning that the motif is sinking down into the pile of the towel, and the towel actually puffs up through the motif. And I like to utilize the motif in a lot of home decor, and that's what I was alluding to, is that it creates an embossing pattern because the motif tends to mat down the pile of the towel, allowing the pile to come up through there, and it creates a really wicked effect. It really looks neat when you're working with the motifs, especially on towels. I also utilize the motifs when I'm working with the heat and shrink. Applying this to a piece of material, placing the heat and shrink behind it, and then shrinking it, it will actually shrink and fit within those motifs, and you'll have a magnificent look. It gathers, heat and shrink shrinks 30% when steamed, so it shrinks within that open area and creates just, and again, an amazing effect. An amazing effect. You can use that for bag making. You can utilize that on your towels. That's what I meant by it. It's an embossing effect. I'm not really using embossing. I'm using motifs. I hope that's a little more clear.
Great. Well, we are at 9 p.m., so it's time for our webinar to end. So I want to thank everybody that's come to our webinar. I want to thank all of our moderators for all their help. Certainly DJ, Walter, and Karen Veronese, and we really appreciate everything that all of y'all do. So, Mr. Walter, you can say your be nicest. And
you know what, folks, this has been a very, very fun one for me. Certainly, we're going to get into a lot more functionality of digitizing and all kinds of stuff as we progress. With the addition in the last update to being able to, again, save as motifs, shapes, embossing, library, the new blend icon, the new applique stitch. I just thought those were amazing features. I also thought it would be remiss of me if I didn't cover the initial special effects that were developed initially with the software. I have enjoyed this very much. Kudos to you, Kathy. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, all our moderators. I don't know what we would do without you. And certainly, most important and most of all, thank you, the users of our Floriani Total Control Professional. I love you all. Hugs and stitches. We'll see you next time. Kathy, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Great.
Hugs and stitches, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.